Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Big Bite Baits, Rigger with the Coach on Monday. Brandon, how's everything going with you today? Everything wonderful?
Going good, man. Going good.
Well, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about clothing and about baits and questions and that type of thing. I do want to hit real quick and talk about the retro hat. If you don't have the new retro hat, you need to get you one. It wears really well. It's a Pacific brand hat. It's got our old logo on it with the retrofitted font on it into the new font. And pretty neat looking deal. And now the word's getting out, it's becoming pretty popular. You know, for a little bit it didn't sell. Now all of a sudden it's selling really good. So definitely $24.99 off the website. Big Bite Retro hat, no doubt. So my special guest today, guy that's pretty good fisherman. We're just excited as the devil to have him on with us today. Me and him always get to talking, and we get carried away, and it goes very well. He's the inventor of the BFE, and he is the newest qualified elite angler from Big Bite, and we're just tickled to death to have him on here today. Bradley Hallman, I got you with me, buddy? Still waiting for him, having some technical difficulty. We're trying to get him in, so maybe we'll get him in just a second. We'll bring him on. But if you hadn't heard and hadn't been watching the Bass site, you know, they announced the new anglers to get into the Elite Series, and, of course, Bradley was one of them. And we're just as happy as we can be for him, and we're just trying to wait to get him on. Have we got him in yet? Has he come in? Having some problems, difficulty hooking up. So he's connected. Right now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How about you, Bradley? You with me?
I'm with you.
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing wonderful. How you boys doing?
We're doing great, man. First thing we need to get off our chest before getting this started is we want to congratulate you for Big Bite Bait for making the Elite Series next year. I know that's been a lifelong dream of yours because me and you've discussed that on many occasions. So tell us how it feels, man.
Dude, I'm just glad it's over, right? Like it's been 3 years of trying to qualify and going through the opens and that gauntlet of 225 boats, and it's been an uphill battle, dude. Like I'm just super relieved. Like I had a buddy of mine call and we talked for a long time after the first day afterwards, and he was like, "Look, man, you had bigger mountains and bigger goals to climb when you started this journey, and I agree. There's still bigger mountains on the other side, but
well, yeah, we want to get a win after we get in there. Definitely make the classic, all that good stuff.
yeah. But I definitely appreciate sitting back and enjoying where I've gotten, because it was definitely a tough grind for me, no doubt."
Hey, Brad, your video seems a little in and out there. Just want to let you know.
I've got my Wi-Fi going full speed, and I've got a real high speed, so hopefully it'll pick up maybe.
Okay, well, we'll just continue on saying it all turns out. We can always have to come back and shoot it later if it doesn't work. How about one of the questions I wanted to ask for you? I think it's a real big deal with all. What are your plans for the off season now that you know what you're going to be doing next year? I know you've got a lot of things you've got to do to get ready, because it's not just going to be 2 or 3 tournaments. It's going to be a full gambit of tournaments. Talk to us a little bit about what you got in mind on that.
Yeah, some of the things that the Elite Series throws at you that's different than the norm. And if any time I start cutting out, y'all just hold up your thumb or something. Give me the coach and I'll stop.
It's still cutting out.
It is cutting out right now?
Yeah, it's like all I'm seeing on my end is it's like flashing, I guess, between where you're at and a green and just sort of a blurry image. I don't know
I
don't know if everybody else sees that or what they see.
I've got my Wi-Fi and it's rolling. It's pretty high speed. That's why I definitely want to make sure.
We'll just go ahead and continue, and if it doesn't work, then we can always get it back another day.
Okay. Everybody says it looks good from their side, so I guess we'll just keep going.
We appreciate somebody giving us that tip from the outside, too, because we're definitely having some issues. But go ahead now, Brad. We're talking about getting ready from your perspective.
Yeah. And any of you boys, if it's cutting out, just put the comments down there, because I'm reading them, too, as they come across. The challenges that the Elite Series offer that are different. One major one is the off-limits period. It starts from the moment the schedule's released. So the second that I was confirmed into the Elite Series, I can get no information on any of the body of the waters that are shown. For the guys that are there, it's a no information from the time the schedule's actually released and made public. For me personally, I like that. But I'm older and I've been around some of these lakes throughout the country through the years. So, you know, it's not as big a disadvantage to me. Some of the younger guys I know, you know, back when I started, it would have been much tougher. But that's one of the challenges. The amount of practice time, they start practice on Monday, official practice, and it's over on Wednesday. And that sounds like 3 days, but I've been through that and I know what that is. There's a meeting somewhere in the middle of the afternoon on Wednesday. So really you're only looking at 2.5 days of practice.
And depending on the size of the lake, that's a lot of water to cover.
Yeah. And so that means that your practice needs to be pretty well pointed and defined in your mind before you start Monday morning, because you don't have a lot of time to be looking around, right? Like, you know, a place like Okeechobee or a place like the St. Lawrence River, you better have some ideas locked in your head of where you want to spend your practice. But those are, along with some back-to-back events, which I've always enjoyed as a traveling professional. I like them because if we go to Florida for 2 events, we get 2 out of the way. Years ago, we went out to California. We did 2 back-to-backs, but understanding what's required of those back-to-backs sometimes can be tough.
Right.
If you make the cuts and you make it all the way to the top 10, I remember, I don't know, 2009 or 2010, we had a back-to-back and we were in like Dardanelle in Arkansas, and the very next one was Wheeler in Alabama.
Oh, wow.
Up making the top 10 in both of those events. But that's where I really kind of learned to like, look, dude, you got to grind. So I had somebody with me to drive me, and I missed some of the practice. I mean, that's just part of it. But being able to understand that you got to be ready to go on week 2, because these things take so much out of all of us, depending no matter what level tournament fishing you're doing.
That's correct.
Practice, and it takes a lot from all of us.
I bet.
You know, emotionally and mentally, it takes a lot out of you and drains you.
Yeah, I can understand that. And then, of course, I guess you got to do the plans of where are you going to stay when you go to these different places, and where you're going to stop, and what direction you're going to go in. There's just tons of logistics in there.
Yeah, and I noticed Matt Airy was on here already. I saw his little deal. Yeah, a lot of that's down to roommates, right? And
right.
Hookup and I have been together the last couple years, and John and I traveled in the Opens this year together. And he qualified, so I imagine he and I we'll get us a house. I've been booking houses for 4 guys, and dude, it's hard. You know, it's hard.
I can imagine.
Parking is the biggest problem. So I'm kind of looking forward to booking houses for just the 2 of us. 2 truck boats would be a little bit easier to find, but yeah, all that's involved.
That's right. Well, let's get to the fishing part of it a little bit. We kind of need to hear all that for sure. How about lures? Now, I know you're going to go to these lakes and you're going to try to turn these lakes into the type of water you like to fish. So talk to us a little bit about some of the things you hope to be able to use, some of the ways that you like to attack those lakes.
Well, you know, with the live scope, we've got the new swim baits and everything at Big Bite. Dude, some of that stuff with live scope's going to play. We just saw it really play out this fall throughout the Opens that finished up, the Toyota Championship. You're seeing all these 19 and 20-year-olds just kicking old guys that have spent years and years.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
I've been a part of that cutting edge, and I don't want to get left behind. I like a flipping stick in the bank as much as anybody, but I do think that some of that stuff's going to be a big player. Obviously, the BFE is man, we're starting in Okeechobee, you know, and I was fortunate enough, the very first FLW Tour event that I fished, I stepped on stage and took the lead on day 1 and never gave it back for 4 days. God, if lightning could strike again.
You could hold a big blue up. That'd be real good.
It would be phenomenal. I'm going to be looking for that bite, but I'm sure there's 100 other guys going to be looking for it as well. But
I agree.
Yeah.
But that BFE that'll be a main player down there. Black and blue colors will be ready to roll, I'm sure.
Yeah, with one of these in my hand, I got an ounce and a quarter weight in my hand right here. So yeah, it's sitting on my desk. I was sitting here playing, talking about it. Built for punching for sure.
That's right. I guarantee you, that's right up your alley there now. So yeah, I know you'll be excited about that. It's a good way to start anyway.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Rojas's frog bait, you know, that we've got is a bait that I can honestly say that I was not that aware of. The first time you and I met and you looked at me and you was like, you don't throw that much? And I was like, no, I really hadn't. It's funny how that thing has become a big player for me.
Yeah, that's a good bait now. That's my favorite bait. Over the years, I've always caught fish on. I mean, I like that bait a lot.
That bait catches a lot.
Well, what I like about that bait is you can use it a lot of different ways. You know, you can make trailers out of it. You can drag it. You can do all kinds of different things with it.
We'd made a couple trips on those tidal rivers, dude. They eat the fire out of that bait. I mean, up there in Virginia, it's like candy to those things. And
okay, was the 5-inch 5.5 doing better or the 7.5?
The 5
On
inch.
the tour swim worm. Okay, that's interesting to know. That's good. I know all the guys out there like to hear that for sure. What else was a key player for you this year besides those baits? Anything else that comes right off the top of your head?
Man, I always kept a drop shot with that little finesse worm in my hand. Like you said, the opens are a different scenario because those guys, we didn't have any off limits. They were spending a tremendous amount of time practicing. The waterways that Bassmaster tends to go to with the opens a lot of times are not the best fisheries, and they're not the best times of year. So it's conducive to tough fishing. So
that kind of separates men from the boys a little bit.
yeah. So there's a lot of grinding, and there was a lot of drop shot in my hand, definitely.
Well, and I sort of have a question I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, I know obviously the way that you like to fish to me is, a kind of get 5 bites a day, but you've got a good chance to win. And obviously that might not set up everywhere you go. So what are some things maybe you had to do to modify your game, the way that you fish, to make sure that you're at least salvaging points in an event?
Yeah, and believe me, after 3 years in the opens, I kind of had to keep beating my head against the wall until I finally was smart enough to figure that out. Man, you cannot finish below 100, right? So, like, if you're wanting to stay in that top echelon of the overall points, the divisional was a little bit different. But, like, for guys going forward, with them doing all 9, in which I finished in that this year, you cannot finish below 100th. I don't care what you got to get done, how you got to catch them, how you got to figure that out. And there's not that much difference in weight of fish from finishing 160th and finishing 98th. But, dude, in the points, it's all the difference in the world at the end of the year. You just got to figure out real quick, look, we're not here to win every derby, right? Now, it was a little bit different with the divisional points in the way that I won the Centrals this year. You basically got to fish to win to get in that way because that's only 3 tournaments. But with the way they've got it set forward and to stay in that deal, you got to stay under 100. And, if you can do that, if you can stay under 100, you could probably average somewhere around 50th, 55th place, something like that. If you could keep that your average, you're going to be right there in
the hunt.
That top 9. And that's a different mindset for most of us as anglers because we want to try to win a derby, right?
Sure. Well, the good thing about it is you got that out of the way now, so you don't have to worry about that. All you got to do is focus on catching fish in the Elite Series for sure.
Well, the Elite Series is a totally different setup, Coach. I mean, honestly, there's only 100 of us, short practice, and we go to the premier for the most part. They're going to the premier fisheries in the country at the best time. So it's a lot different setup.
That's right. The ability to catch fish should be a little, I'm not going to say easier, but a little more, adequate. Let's put it that way.
Maybe if you pick something up along the day and that little light switch goes off, you're like, ooh, I kind of understand where that bite came from. At least when you go to the next spot, there's not 3 boats already been sitting there for 3 days.
Yeah, I can only imagine for sure. Definitely. What else we got for him, Brandon? While we got him on here, let's talk to him while we can.
Well, we were just trying to dive into his, what helped him qualify for the elites and, techniques and things.
Well, while we got him on here, I want to use him for just a minute then. So we talk about the BFE. We all know you basically drew the BFE up. I remember when the diagram came in here and we got that thing made and everything. So talk to the general guys that's watching us today about how you rig that and what type of line and rod and reel you like to use to pitch that bait.
So, honestly, I designed that bait because of where I live in Oklahoma. I like to flip, it's all wood cover. And with wood, I flip that bait on fluorocarbon. I do not like flipping braid here. We don't have a lot of 7 and 8, 9, 10 pounders. 5s and 6s are giants. We flip fluorocarbon. Braid tends to get hung up in the wood all the time when you're flipping into trees and bushes.
Okay.
And I don't, when I'm flipping fluorocarbon, I can't stand that straight hook, that straight shank hook, that we use on braid. But,
right.
So, like, I've won a tour event on Okeechobee, and I like flipping the big weight. So they're 2 different setups. And now what I'm getting at quickly is that bait was actually designed around 2 different hooks. I wanted it to fit 2 hooks. I wanted it to fit the 4/0 straight shank with the braided line, and a big weight, but I also wanted to be able to flip that bait around bushes and wood. So it would cover everything. And that hook is a 4/0 offset EWG. And that's
Okay.
fluorocarbon. So that's kind of where it starts. So if I'm flipping wood, it's a 4/0 offset EWG fluorocarbon line with probably anywhere from a 3/16 up to probably a half ounce, maybe a 3/4, but probably a half ounce weight. That's where that sits. And I throw that thing on that Falcon rod. It's a 7.3 Amistad extra heavy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar.
It's stiff rod.
Yes, it is.
Whenever I'm flipping down in Florida or I'm flipping grass, just any type of vegetation, something that gives, then that's a different deal. I'm definitely going to be flipping on braid. 25-pound test fluorocarbon on the other one on Sunline, and then I'm also using 80-pound braid.
Right.
So I'm not breaking fish off. Dude, does that bother you? Like, when I've got those big rod, there's nothing worse than getting broke off. It's like,
no, you got to fish clean. That's the thing. That drives me bonkers. If I have to fish a little local tournament, I don't fish clean. It just drives me totally insane.
yeah.
I mean, if I fish clean and don't do well, then it's my fault. I just didn't find the fish. But heck with breaking them off.
Yeah, I said 80, but I don't use 80. I actually use 60, but I say that because it's like using rope, you know. 50-pound plasma, that stuff doesn't break at all. I can tie onto a train. That's what I expect because
That's right.
I don't want it broke off. But anyway, it's a 4/0 straight shank, and I'm using anywhere from a half up, you know, all the way up to 2-ounce weight on the BFE.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you peg the weight on both?
Yes, pegged on both. Absolutely. I never flip at all with anything that's not pegged. I've talked to guys and they're like, oh, well, I think I get a couple, man. Maybe you do get a couple more. I'm pegging my stuff. I want it straight in the heart of the thickest stuff there is there. I go my first cast. I don't peck around the edges and try to catch it. I go straight to the heart every time.
Right. I have a little question I think everybody would probably want to know. I know, so if you're fishing mats and stuff in Florida, I'm assuming you might snell your hook. Is that correct?
Yeah, so with the braid, it's definitely a snail knot.
But if you're fishing non-braid, like with fluorocarbon, then you just use whatever knot you like to use.
Yes, and I don't know the name of it. It's a San Diego jam, something like that. But yeah.
Right. Everybody has a knot they like to use. I mean, everybody has a knot they have confidence in. I was just curious how you did that for sure.
Definitely snail. I think that's why I don't like the straight shank hook with the fluorocarbon. Like I don't get good hookups with it. And
right, makes sense.
Have you stilled fluorocarbon before? Like it just none of it works well for me.
Personally. I agree.
I'm going to ask you one that, I'm sure you've seen all kinds of input on this, and maybe you've got a bone you can throw me. Since you designed the BFE, maybe what are some ways that you figured out how to use it besides just as a flipping bait? So what's something you like to do with it other than that?
Well, you can definitely, it works really well as a couple ways. One is a jig trailer. It works really well on a half-ounce jig as a jig trailer.
I've heard that.
Really well. They like it. They like it a lot. Anytime they're looking for a jig that doesn't have, because, I mean, some of the guys, see the BFE and they were like, well, it doesn't have any flappers and appendages that swing. That's not what I was after. I wanted something that would punch, go through the mats easy, go into bushes, not get hung up, something that would make it all the way to the bottom, because being at the bottom was a big deal. But, dude, a lot of times that non-action is that glide action is what they want. It's not all that flipping and flopping. And sometimes flipping and flopping is what they want. Anyway, to the point. So the jig trailer is a great bait, and it's also really good on the back of a wobble head. We've got wobble head. We sell wobble heads.
Yeah, that's right. We do. Exactly right. We call it swing head.
Yep, swing head. And they're really, really good on the back of them.
I've had other guys tell me that. It's kind of coincidental you told me that, or you said that about the jig trailer and the wobble head. I've heard that from just, guys I've talked to on the phone here at the shop. And another way I've heard of my life, I've actually heard some guys use it like on the back of a swim jig as a trailer for something that's subtle. Like you said, it hadn't got that flapping action.
Yeah, absolutely. Those things that I think off the top of my head, I'm actually going to meet Jordan tomorrow, make you guys jealous. Jordan and I are meeting up at Grand Lake tomorrow. And I've got a little lake house up there, and we're actually going to film, make some short videos, some content and stuff for Big Bite and Sunline. And anyway, I said, he said, what all can we do? And I said, well, in the fall, we should be spooking and jerking, but since we're doing big bite, I said, dude, I think bring some of those new swim baits. And I said, I think we can put that BFE on some wobble heads, and we'll do some of that with the Real Hosses Fighting Frog as well. But yeah,
Right.
yeah, we can definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure he's stoked. I wouldn't even have to call and ask him. I know the answer to that question. But anyway, well, we've had a great time talking with you this afternoon. We appreciate you going on with us, and I want to make sure we tell you once again, congratulations, and we'll be watching the standings next year, my friend. And, I hope you do well for sure.
Guys, I appreciate y'all having me on. I do, and I love visiting with you, Coach, every chance I get. We always have a good time. We're never short for words, the two of us.
That's exactly that. That is the honest to God's truth. I agree with that 100%. Take care, my friend.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, brother. See you, man.
Thank you, guys.